for Shane Warne. And he's done it.
We would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet today and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in.
Right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Aussies Abroad on the B Sample Sports Network, where we cover the best Aussies kicking ass on the world stage every single day. This week, guys, we're going to have some news topics. Stick around. We're going to have an interview with Aussie punter Isaac Pearson from the Texas Longhorns, and we're going to have the good, the bad, and the ugly. Speaking of ugly, Mr. Bo Kennett's here. Bo, how was your week, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me yet again. Privilege is all mine, mate. I'm keen as for this episode.
Very nice.
Yeah, good week for me, man. Outside of what we'll be talking about, shitty week for as far as my sport teams go. Big football fan, NFL fan, and it's been a tough week for me. So that sucks.
I did notice the Colts are without a quarterback.
Oh my god! Yet again, the sixth straight we're. Yes, 6 seasons in a row we're starting with a new quarterback. So I cry myself to sleep most nights now.
And you guys you haven't actually done too badly in those years, but it'll take a huge effort this season, right? It's going to be tough.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And we've got Ness with us as well. Ness, thank you for coming back and hanging out with these two idiots again.
My pleasure is all mine. Thanks for having me.
Very nice.
Week 3.
Week 3, we're all excited. The interview we did with Isaac is fantastic. So stick around, guys, for that interview with Isaac. But let's get started with some news. Swimming for Australia. This whole time in the swimming, Emma McKeon, 4 gold medals, three times she's come third. She obviously doesn't like to come second. She's got 7 medals in total, 11 in total in all the games, but 7 at this games. The best swimming event we've seen from a female or a male at all. Aussies are doing extremely well. Ness, is this the best Dolphins team that we've ever seen?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, those stats are incredible. We've seen, like, Emma she's just killing it, and she's just so calm and collected. There's that real sense of calm about her, pre-race, during a race. She doesn't even look puffed. She's obviously super fit, and, I think she's just such an inspiration to some of those other swimmers. I think the Dolphin team is pretty united, and Spinks and I were talking just earlier, that Aussie, Aussie, Aussie chant that they did in the Olympic Village, it just completely shows how in tune with one another they are and so supportive of one another. They've done great. Very proud of them.
As of this morning, I think she would have ranked about 11th if she was a country by herself.
Yeah. It's an awesome stat.
That's yeah, that's fantastic. And we'll obviously talk about the goal we have later on, but so far the Aussies are on track for their best Olympics ever, so we'll touch on that later. But at the moment, let's talk about the Wallabies. The Wallabies are in New Zealand, ready for the first rugby union test match against New Zealand on Saturday night, and 3 of the Wallabies have been stood down for excessive drinking after a team event. Now, no one was hurt, no one was injured, there was no drunken affairs, there was no damage to a building, a car, of vomiting, anything. They just drank too much after dinner, and these 3 have been stood down. 3 guys that we can use on the weekend. Our chances against the All Blacks are skinny as it is, and for us to stand these 3 guys down when we need all the guys we can get, is this not just us throwing ourselves under the bus even more? Why are we trying to punish people for something that most Aussies do every weekend. I don't seem to understand this. Like, can you guys help me out here? Like, I just don't know why we're trying to punish ourselves.
Ness, do you want to go? I'll go. What's more Australian than that? What's more Australian than that? It's a couple of boys just having a few too many beers. And like you've touched on there, they haven't made a dick of themselves. They haven't done anything wrong, which a lot of the Australian football players, predominantly the NRL, that's gonna be a different story. If they did that, geez, let the boys play, huh?
Exactly. Thank you. Exactly right. Ness, what do you think?
I have to rebut this, right? It just makes it more interesting.
No,
Look, I guess I completely agree, and we probably are throwing our chances under the bus a bit, but I guess you've got to set a standard in professional sport. And I guess the Wallabies have been critical of, incidents in the past. We obviously see these issues probably more so in NRL and AFL, but, I think they're trying to uphold probably a better reputation that they've enjoyed for the last little bit at least. And I guess you've got to set a standard and for that not to become the norm. Look, it sucks for this weekend, definitely, but I think the longer term, you want to play in the big league, you have to behave in an appropriate way. And my ugly later will probably touch on that a little more.
Exactly.
I got the halo above my head like an angel.
Hang around for later.
I don't know. I think that's a pretty fair point, actually. I think it's a fair point. If you're going to be professional, be a professional. Maybe you've swung my vote.
But look, if this gets swept under the carpet and we know nothing about it, and these three go on to be excellent on the weekend, then we're none the wiser. Why does it have to be a story? It's kind of one of those things. I'm all for it. Keep going, carry on.
I don't know. Like Ness said, though, if you're gonna be a professional, just wait till the off season and then run amok. I don't know. Maybe I'm changing because of what you said. Like, be a bit more. Yeah. Geez, I'm gonna be on the fence now.
On the fence again, yeah.
Oh, right. Now you're Switzerland.
Well, you guys are on the fence. It's been since 1984 since we've beaten the All Blacks at Eden Park. And Ness, as you know, 1984 is the greatest year. So thank you to 1984. But moving on, the Matildas. Now, the Matildas, the team we sat here and praised last week, has broken our hearts 2 games in a row. We went down 1-0 to Sweden in the semi-final, and then the USA has totally pantsed us this afternoon, and we were beaten 4-3. I think was the final score in the end. We finished 4th in the tournament. Are we upset? Ness, what do you think? Is it finishing 4th? Is it bad?
Look, it's actually the Matildas' best result at an Olympic Games ever. So credit to them for that. There's 2 things. And last week we spoke about our celebrity sport crushes. Bo admitted to Ellie Carpenter being his fave. And I think if she had been in the team and not done a really ridiculous foul in the last game, with 10 seconds to go, which really didn't need to be made, it was just a lazy, tired tackle. I really think, and I'm an Ellie Carpenter fan, I really think we needed her tonight. So I think that's one. Notwithstanding, their result was still pretty good, but we have come to expect a level from these Aussies that isn't 4th. And I think that's a medal chance gone begging for me.
Ellie and I are on talking terms now, so I'll have a word with her after this and let her know.
Chat to her about that, please.
Throughout the same game, Sam Kerr scored once. I believe she scored the second goal, and that takes her to 48 goals for Australia. That is the most by a man or a woman for Australia ever. So she's now on top.
Really?
I believe she broke Timmy Cahill's record, but I can't actually be sure. So don't quote me on that.
I was going to say, what's Cahill on?
Yeah, I think it was his record. Yeah. So we just have to check. Actually, yeah, I would look at that after. Anyway.
Look at her, but if that is true, shout out to her. Congratulations.
Yeah, she's doing well, and she's amazing. So young still too. So I think she's going to have a lot more goals under her belt. So speaking of Australia and the USA, the Opals have been absolutely thrashed by the USA women's basketball team in the quarterfinal, 79-55, and every one of them came out after the game and said they missed Liz Cambridge a lot. So despite the fact you've been beaten, and despite the fact you've been significantly beaten by 24 points, you came out and you threw her under the bus. They're like, see you, Liz, gone. was it bad enough for them to lose the way they did, or is it actually Liz's fault for being the person that she is? I'm leaving this open to you all. So
I had a somewhat disagreement with my boss at work about Liz Cambridge actually yesterday.
Yeah.
Look, I think there are a few things. I think it was a bit weird that they came out and sort of threw her under the bus immediately. Were they looking for someone to blame? Potentially. They just didn't perform. For me, the Opals need to learn how to shoot. And netball's a great sport. We don't even need a backboard. They've got a backboard and they couldn't shoot. So I'm a bit disappointed in the Opals performance. But look, they definitely missed her. She is arguably the best women's player in the world. They certainly missed her talent. I don't think they missed the toxic culture that she was bringing. And we've talked, in previous shows about her potential mental health issues and all of that. And we've said we hope that she's getting the support. But I'm sort of waiting for her rebuttal, actually, to some of the comments made in the last couple of days. So we'll see what comes of it.
For me, I think it's, if we're going to touch on the rugby team, the Wallabies being professional, I think it's we're in the same stratosphere there. It's the professional is outside of the game and inside of the game. So for sure, just my opinion kind of stays the same with you got to keep it all on track, especially while you're at an Olympic Games. So a bit falls on her. You kind of have to be able to. And mental health aside, yeah, she's dealing with things, but
which makes it hard because I think, it's a difficult situation for the world to be in, and for them to certainly throw her under the bus was not the best way to go about it, I think. But it's happened now, and hopefully they can all move on together. And speaking of not moving on together, the men's basketball team has also been thrashed by the USA this afternoon. So that was lovely to see. The Aussies were in charge. The Aussies were totally in charge of this game for the first probably about 20 minutes, half an hour. They led by 15 or 16 points. The third quarter, they went down 32-10, and that was the turning point. A few of the Aussies have signed some very big contracts this week over in the US. Patty Mills will be moving over to the Nets, I think it is, next year. The Aussies are all looking very big next year over there, and maybe they're too focused on their new contracts to be worried about what was sort of going on behind the doors with that. So hopefully things will look up next year, but at the moment, the USA seems to have our number in the Olympics in almost everything. So is that just an oversight on our behalf? Do we need to work harder to beat the US, or is the US always going to be a better basketball team than us?
If it's okay, I'll just push in and start again. I think they are always going to be better for sure. The bronze medal is kind of what we're always fighting for every Olympic. So talent-wise, yes, they're always going to be a better team than us. There is a lot of good to take out of the Olympics for the Australian basketball team, I would say. Just to compete with the USA, I mean, we're kind of not brought up to be like, hey, as long as you're competing, that's good enough. But when it comes to basketball, there needs to be a little bit of pride, I think, that for us to take out. And yeah, we did dominate for a quarter and a half there. We were the better team, and I'll touch on it a little bit later, I think. But it sucks. It's heartbreaking that we had an opportunity to knock off a team that's should be unbeatable with all their starting five being better than anyone else in the world. So we stuck with them, but I think the general Australian public is going to be disappointed. But we fought hard, and we should take pride with how we played and where we placed.
Yeah, now look, I'm not sure if you guys watched it, but this time last year there was a documentary getting around called The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary, and Jordan's come out. The omission from that documentary was there was no Aussies in there. We were missing a big man up front named Luke Longley. Jordan's come out this week and said that he regrets not including him in the documentary. Longley was upset at the time about it, didn't make too much of it. Jordan's come out and said, look, we should have had him in there, but never really explained why. Now, Bo, I know you're a big basketball fan. You got any kind of insight into what Luke Longley's done to be the only one not part of this? Pippen was in there, Jordan was in there, Bugs Bunny was in there. Like everyone was in there. What did Luke Longley do wrong?
Oh, mate, don't ask me this. I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, so
yeah, I know.
It's hard for me to touch on, man. But my honest opinion is, and what I've read is there was a bit of backlash around the whole series, and it potentially was a bit too focused on making Jordan, obviously the GOAT, but still trying to make Jordan a nicer guy than what I've read, a nicer guy than what a lot of people thought of him. So, and yeah, not touching on the big man. In his defense, big man basketball is it's not going to get that many clicks, that many views. It's a little bit more boring. I think the real fan base will appreciate what the big people do. That goes with, I think, most sports. The football, I'm a big football fan, big man. The big guys never get enough credit. So it's going to happen.
Very nice. Look, it was one of those things. Look, I'd still watch the documentary a thousand times over, but hopefully Luke Longley will have his own documentary one day, and he'll put everyone.
Maybe he will.
Maybe he will.
Yeah.
Big shout out to our next news article. Aussie Harry Garside, the boxer. He has made it through his quarterfinal, and he's in the semi-final. He'll fight against Andy Cruz tomorrow at 3:45 Australian time. So Friday, 3:45. It's the first time we've had an Aussie in the semi-final for 30 years. So big shout out to Harry. Looks like he will be going all the way this year. He was picked for about top 10, top 8. So the fact he's down to the final 4, this is a very, very good thing. And I believe in the boxing, if you lose your semi-final, you automatically get a third. So he will receive a medal of some sort. So this is good. Now, our final news article, Ness, I know this is all about you. Finally, I want to talk about a 62-year-old Olympian, Andrew Hoy. Now, Andrew Hoy has been riding horses for 62 years. He's claimed another 2 medals at this Games. This is his 8th Olympic Games. Now, his first Olympic Games were also in 1984. Ness, I know you've covered him for a long time. How do you feel about Andrew Hoy?
I just want to put on the table, you're older than me in 84 vintage, but anyway.
Yes.
What a champion, Andrew Hoy. I love what he's done, and he's certainly, if you could name another person in equestrian in that field, go for it, because I actually can't. Yeah. He personifies what equestrian to this country is. Yes. I love that he came out, and he's 62. That could be him hanging up now here's my lack of knowledge on equestrian. He's putting the horse away. But he's like, no, I'm going to be there in 2032 in Brisbane. And you know what? He probably will be. He's amazing. So that was after his medal, he came out going, I'm keen to join in the Brisbane shenanigans. So credit to him. He's a champion of the sport, and he speaks so well. He spoke beautifully of his family who've long supported him. And may we see him in 2032. Who knows?
Very nice.
Let's go.
Yeah. Guys,
speaking of equestrian,
yes.
Sorry if I can. Did anyone see the Snoop Dogg Kevin Hart thing about it? Did no one saw it?
No.
Snoop Dogg and Kevin Hart talking about oh my gosh.
I have to watch it.
Yeah, have a watch. Oh my god. Snoop Dogg just laugh from that.
Very nice.
The question doesn't get that many clicks until Snoop Dogg gets involved.
Yeah, until he gets involved. Very nice. All right, guys. Look, and now it's time for our interview with Texas Longhorns Aussie punter, who you and I spoke to this week, Bo. He was awesome. Very good to see. He speaks about Australia so well and the game that he loves, and it's going to be a very interesting season to see him. So here he is coming up next, Aussies Pearson. Righto, welcome to Aussies Abroad, Aussies Pearson. Now, mate, you are the punter for the Texas Longhorns in the college football, mate. How did you sort of come to be in this position?
Oh, mate, still pinch myself a little bit. I'm very lucky to be here. And I guess I've been here 7 months now. Prior to that, I was training with Pro Kick Australia for 2 years, and they're really the ones that trained me and facilitated me being in this very fortunate position I'm in.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the pro kick system. I've interviewed Nathan Chapman before for another show, and he's one of the nicest guys I've ever met. I think it was in lockdown too. I think, and the way he's sort of gone about helping punters in Australia to make it over to the US is just unreal. And I was sitting there with him, and he listed off about 50 guys, and I was just amazed that there's almost a punter at every college team now.
Yeah, it's incredible. I can't remember the official number that we're at. I don't think he has an official number in his head because there's so many guys going over every 6-7 months or so. There's a new wave, and it's quite the community where it's all a pretty tight knit little brotherhood. As specialists in general, pretty tight knit, but you don't have to go too far to have an Aussie at a school nearby. So some of my best friends, some of my housemates, to rattle a few of them off, are playing at A&M, ones at Ohio State, Florida, Auburn, like Oregon, Miami, all these places that you're just massive institutions that really we have no business being at. if we couldn't pick a ball, there's no way we'd be there. But,
very nice.
We're all very fortunate.
But you're following in the footsteps of Michael Dixon. He was with the Longhorns as well. Was your Longhorns your main offer? Like, do you have other offers? Did you always want to go there? You should have gone to LSU, my team, but that's fine. I get your point.
Hey, horns up.
Welcome, buddy. Welcome. It's a really, I guess it's a bit unorthodox compared to the system over here. So now that I'm, a bit more exposed to it, all my teammates, they accrue as many offers as they can, earn them as best they can. And then it's down to a really, I guess, cutthroat decision as to where they want to spend their next 4 years. Whereas back home in Pro Kick, we're under no illusion as to how lucky we are to be in a position that we are offered one scholarship. So it comes down to almost a matchmaking process between us, our talent, and our, I guess, demeanor and where we qualify for. So like you're not going to send a guy that doesn't qualify for a certain school or try and send him to a school that he's not going to be academically eligible for. The same way that you wouldn't send a guy to a massive school if he hasn't got a massive leg, sort of thing. So that's the sort of behind the scenes stuff that you don't really hear about at Pro Kick, is that it's a massive task to matchmake some of these guys, because there's 500 schools over here that play college football at varying levels, but D1 or D3 or something, and they all need a punter. So finding the right guy for the right spot is half the battle. And so we don't really accrue offers in Pro Kick. So if you're offered, you've got to have a bloody good reason not to take that offer.
Yeah, nice. Exactly. Now, my co-host here, Bo, you played for our local teams here in town for several years. You wanted to ask about training?
Yeah, I did. Yes. So Isaac, I play the sport myself here. It's been 12th. I think it's my 12th year this year. So I'm a big fan. Excellent. And just one of the questions what I would have is just based around your training regime, what's involved. Obviously, it looks like a lot of strength and flexibility. How much is, what's your day-to-day kind of training regime?
I guess it's very different for us as specialists. We are sort of thrown in. We're thrown in with the big skill guys, so linebackers, tight ends, offensive line, defensive line. We do the exact same exercises and the exact same running that they do, just at a slightly slower weight and slightly harder weight and slightly slower than the linebackers do it. But we're doing all the same, compound lifts, auxiliary lifts, and then on top of that, we do our own specific mobility stuff to keep our hips and our legs fresh. And on top of that, I'll do my own yoga. I guess. Yeah, I'll stretch for a half hour before I go to sleep each night just to keep fresh. So that's what I'm in the middle of now. We've just finished 7 months of straight preseason where it's been running and lifting. There's been 8 sessions a week for the last 7 months, and we're doubling up most days and just smashing it. So that's all in prep to get ready for the season. And now coming to fall camp, it's just about maintaining what I've built through summer and through winter before that. And yeah, I guess now about maintaining my body the best way I can so that I can make it through this long season.
How's it feeling? Do you feel stronger compared to the start of the off season?
Yeah, absolutely. I came over at 209, 210 pounds, and over the winter I put on 17.5 pounds of muscle mass and 2 pounds of fat or something. So I'm up at 229 at the moment.
Wow.
Feel really, yeah, getting up there. Feel really strong, but just now, obviously we put in a massive body of work through summer, so it's about giving this week before we start. It's just about giving your body a bit of a rest, and then hitting the ground running again on Thursday.
Exciting times, man.
The team you're with over there, mate, massive team. A lot of followers over there. So the fans have been starved for football for a long time now. Are you ready for week 1 to punt in front of 100,000 fans? How do you get ready for that?
You don't. You really can't. When I was, back in Australia last year in lockdown, I'd train with a few of the other pro kick guys, and we'd have these big Bluetooth speakers blaring, just random crowd noise while we're training. And that, I thought that was going to help us. And then we get over here and it's an empty stadium that I'm training in, and it's 105,000 empty seats, and you're like, what on earth am I doing here? Like, And honestly, like we had the spring game and it was capped at quarter capacity, and there was still 27,000 people there, and it was unlike anything I'd ever seen. And to know that there's just going to be so many more of them, and there's 105,000 inside, 20,000 outside, just completely bananas for Texas football. And there's really no way you can prepare for, I guess, that atmosphere. The best way you could prepare is just to, I guess, embrace it. You can't avoid it. You just got to embrace it. So I'm looking forward to it, because 99% of the game I'm not on the field, so I get to enjoy it and just hopefully zone in and harness the adrenaline and get to work.
Yeah, very nice. So, mate, you've got your arch rival Oklahoma. You've got the Red River Shootout, which is always hard to say. It's coming up in October. I think it's the 9th of October. This is sort of the biggest rivalry between the two schools. It looks like both the schools are going to jump ship to the SEC in the next couple of years. But what have they sort of told you about the rivalry and what it means to beat Oklahoma? Because I'm sure a loss elsewhere throughout the season doesn't mean much, but you have to beat them every year.
That's a loaded question there. We obviously, I mean, I was a massive Longhorns fan before I even joined Pro Kick. Or like as I was learning about the sport.
Cool.
That's great.
So as I was learning about the sport, I was, like, what's more American than playing for Texas? And then I quickly learned to hate Oklahoma just because. And then the more I've been embraced into the system through last year when I was being recruited, now being here, it is, it goes so far as that we won't order red Gatorade for the facility. Like, it's just not a thing.
All right.
That's so cool. That's the best.
It's quite cutthroat, but I don't know. I mean, every loss stings. Yeah. That's why we have a new coaching staff and a new outlook, is that we can't afford to lose. It's the pride and winning tradition of the University of Texas won't be entrusted to the weak nor the timid. That's what we are reminded every single day. And to get up there in Dallas this year and really blow it up there, those guys would just be fantastic for potentially our last year in the Big 12. Yeah, but the priority remains week 1 against Louisiana, and then just address each game as we go along.
Yeah, and so that'd be a bit easier. But I'm not saying Lafayette's a better school, but it'd be easier sort of starting off with them, having sort of a null game first, instead of easing your way into it. Whereas teams like, I think Georgia's got Clemson week 1, so they're sort of coming into it straight away.
Yeah,
so a lot of teams have got some easier games as such.
I guess maybe in the past it might have been easier, but these guys are coming in and probably ranked around what we are, probably around 19, 20 sort of thing. They're they torched Iowa State last year and winning the Fiesta Bowl, so they're no slouches. And we have them at home, and they're probably not used to playing in the environment, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to give us our best, give us their best, I should say. It's it's no secret that whenever any team plays against us, it's their Super Bowl. So we've got to be ready for their absolute best, and take on them. And then we head to Arkansas, and then we play Rice before we start conference play. So this year, we might not be playing against your LSUs or your Alabamas or Michigans or anything like that, but we still have a red hot crack to start. The first 3 games before we start conference play are absolutely vital to how a season shapes out.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I've got one final thing I want to ask you, but I'm not sure if you've got stuff you want to add to, but I'll just get this one out of the way first. There's a question that has divided our friendship group for years, and everyone that comes to the show gets asked this, and it determines what kind of character that you are. Do you keep your tomato sauce in the cupboard or in the fridge?
So in the past, if we bought like the glass fountain bottles, they'd go in the fridge because glass made sense to put it there. But we've been buying the squeeze bottles and the big jugs back home, so they just go straight in the cupboard.
We've never had that answer.
That's a wrong answer, man. That is a wrong answer.
It goes in the fridge, mate. It goes in the fridge.
Well,
but I do like your answer.
I don't care. It goes on hot food. It warms up. Like no one wants to taste like a cold snag or something.
Yes, you do. That's the way for it.
Means you don't got to wait for your pie to cool down.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. Hot pies might be a different caper, that's for sure.
And I didn't think about the fountain in the fridge and the squeezy in the cupboard too. So that makes a bit of sense. Yeah.
We'd go through so much of it, so we just buy the big jugs, and the jugs don't fit in the fridge. So that's sort of force their hands.
Give it.
Actually, I actually did have something I wanted to add. You said you've gained like about 20 odd pound through the off season. Is that just mainly weights, or are you eating a lot differently too?
It's a combination. I mean, back home when I wasn't on the sort of strict regimen that I'm on here. So I haven't been going into each meal with the mindset that I'm going to eat to gain weight. But they smash us at 6 a.m. every morning for 2 hours, and then 2.5 hours, and then you're like, shit, I could eat a horse. And then you got to come back and you got to run, or you got meetings or something, and you're still absolutely drained after class. So having credit to our organisation, we got amazing chefs in the nutrition centre, and they cook everything from sun up to sundown, and it's all you can eat if you want to gain weight, you can eat if you want to cut. It's whatever you want, they've got it there, and it's such a variety that really, really help us. I know that they look after the big guys as well as the little guys, and I mean, it's just a combination of the right training and the right fuel. Like I said, I haven't really tried to put on a ton of weight, but I could know that if I wanted to, I could probably start altering my diet to really gain weight or lose weight if I felt inclined. But just very, very lucky to have the facilities around me to do so.
Yeah, very nice.
I do have one question, if I can fire it away. If you've got time.
I got all time in the world.
Just one for me, because I'm an absolute diva on the football field. How much prep are you putting into your game day kit? You got your kit sorted, you're rolling your pants up, you got a little bit of something to dress yourself up, look nice, or you're just rocking the stock kit? Well,
that's a two-part question. So leading into game day, we're doing our walk into the stadium and stuff. We've just had our very own suits tailored a few weeks ago. So that was these things are going to have the Longhorn lining on the inside, and it's going to look very snazzy. And I've paired that. I thought, why not have a bit of fun with it? I bought a cowboy hat, bought like a bolo tie, so I'm going to wear that going into the stadium.
Yes.
But then as soon as I get dressed into the game day kit, it is a big fashion faux pas to be dressing out as a punter of all players and in all the bells and whistles and gloves and all that sort of shit. So I'll be very, very low key, very traditional, just keep it as basic as I can and just worry about doing my job right. I mean, the last thing I want to see, if I, God forbid, if I shank a punt, the last thing I want to see is me running off there and, some dude haggling me for wearing too many wristbands.
Rolling your shirt.
Hell's going on. So, yeah.
Rolling your shirt up, having your back plate exposed.
Yeah, not doing that. Just keeping it as simple as I can, that's for sure. I'll let the other boys do that.
Fair.
I can't wait that first week to see you in the suit with the cowboy hat, little Bono tie, mate. That's going to be great.
It's going to be fantastic, man. I've been planning this for a little while.
I'm sure you have. Yeah.
Good man.
Very nice. Well, guys, thank you very much for coming on the show, mate. It's very nice to talk to you. Your first game is on the 5th of September, if I'm correct. That's right.
For you guys, yeah, we'll be. Yeah,
5th of September on the Sunday. Yeah.
5 a.m. start for you guys. Yeah.
Yeah, so our good friend that was on the show last week, Michael Roger, he's in the marathon at 6:30 in the morning. So we'll be cutting between your game and his game and his race at Aussies.
I think the marathon will be finished before we are as well.
Yeah, everybody will be. He's a big man, yeah.
Yep.
It'll take forever. No, I appreciate it, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Mate, thank you very much.
Thanks, Isaac.
Welcome.
See you, mate.
All right, guys. As you can see, very nice to hear from Isaac. Can't wait to have the Texas Longhorns on the park for the first game on the 5th of September. It was so nice to have him on the show, and hopefully he's wearing that awesome suit that he was talking about with the tie and the hat. That'll be fantastic. So, all right, guys, it's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly. And Ness, you are up first. What have you got for us this week?
Yeah, sweet. Look, we've seen so many great results in the Olympics, and I know I'm sleep deprived big time, but one of my favorite things, we celebrate all the gold medals, but for me, a really beautiful story that's come out of the Olympics this week is Sarah Carley. You might know her as our 400-meter hurdler. She 5 months ago sustained an injury in the gym where they had to actually take a piece of her thigh and put it in her neck. So she had a gym injury. She debuted at the Olympics this year in Tokyo for us. She just missed out on the semi-final, but she was pretty honest post race, saying she knows she wasn't fit enough. But what an amazing story! She only had her first race 4 weeks ago, and then launched into the Olympics and has become an Olympian. I don't think we've seen the end of her, but it was just such an amazing story. What an achievement to get back after 5 months after quite a horrific injury where, they're saying she could have actually died. So,
that's great, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Wow.
Yeah, that one hit all the feels. That was my good this week.
Yeah.
The bad was, we love the old rivalry with our Yankee friends, but claiming that we cheated in swimming was probably not the nicest thing to read after we've talked about how great the Dolphins have been for this Olympics. But there was certainly a lot on social media after that 4x100 medley win over the Yanks. And, whether it was an illegal transition or not, apparently it was all within the rules. It was in 0.04 of a second, all legitimate for more reports. So, not a great thing to have read this week.
Yeah, look, coming from a country who has the habit of being drug addicts when it comes to the field events, the track events, the 100 meters, the 200 meters, the women's, the men's, the whatever it is, you guys have got more habits than I do, which is a lot of habits. And so you shouldn't be throwing, what's the old saying? People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Exactly right. Yes. Respect. What about your ugly this week?
Yeah.
What do you got?
My ugly, and we have touched on it a little bit, but athletes and appropriate behaviour. So what we know is there was a situation at the Olympic Village involving some of the rugby 7 players, some of the footballers, probably disappointed and had a few too many of the beers that you boys spoke about before. So there was holes in walls and all sorts of things happening at the village, and then they got on a flight back to Australia, from Tokyo, and this comes after reports that the emu and the kangaroo mascots went missing. So look, for me, it just is a bit of an ugly note. Like, they obviously didn't perform great, bit disappointed. I'm all for celebrating. I'm the first one to put my hand up and say I'm all for a beer post-event, but just not a great look for the Aussie team, and certainly not great to be on a flight and causing havoc and just bringing the games and the spirit of Australian sport into disrepute.
And for two teams which should have done a lot better than they did, and the hopes were high for both of those teams, and both of those teams didn't actually do it as well as they should have. You shouldn't have been as drunk as you were. So if you wanted to perform on the field first, by all means, go out and do your thing. But when you are drinking to forget, that's never a good thing. It's never a good thing at all.
That's the most wise thing you've ever said, Steve.
Let's have another podcast on speaking wise.
The wise speaking. I listen. All right, mate. What do you got for us this week? Bo, you good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So my good is something I've touched on previously regarding the Rugby League World Cup. So the good thing, as much as maybe it doesn't sound so good, is the Rugby League World Cup's been postponed. I think to the end of 2020. So for us as Australia is a great thing. It means we get to compete and probably, I would assume, come in as favourites and just create a much better viewing, I think, for a general fan as well as a Australian fan, that we get to be back there in the World Cup representing and trying to take back what should be ours. My bad, I think it's just happened today, and that is the Australia versus USA in the basketball, which we spoke on a little bit before. I'm saying it's a bad only because we did hold a very good lead there, and we had all the opportunity to be a remarkable, just a all-time game of basketball it could have been. But a couple of questionable calls from referees from a team that the last thing they need, the US, is to get a few 50-50 calls. And that's me being nice, is getting a few 50-50 calls go their way. And it kind of just swung possession there. But bad that they've got the best players in the world. You've got Kevin Durant that just is too good, just too good. And we couldn't stop them. So it's bad because of what could have been. We could have really have been, it could have been an amazing thing for Australian basketball.
Definitely.
And then to touch on my ugly is the Australian cricket right now. Is a kid that was, I'm a 90s kid. I grew up just privileged as far as it come with Australian cricket, and we've just lost 2 games to Bangladesh in 24 hours, which credit to Bangladesh. But growing up, like I said, privileged as someone that grew up with the all-time Australian cricket team from 1 to 11, is just not something I've seen. So it's ugly. It's ugly for Australian cricket. I just haven't seen this. I've seen, obviously, we're not trajecting like we used to be, but we're still a dominant cricket team. And to see us lose to Bangladesh twice in 24 hours, it's not something that sits well with me.
I'm with you, man. Look, we had the greatest 11 that they've ever seen with War and Warren and Taylor and Ricky and all those guys. We had the best team ever. T20's never really been our thing. So we've lost twice to Bangladesh. This was going to be one of my news articles too. However, we've also just lost 4 out of 5 to the West Indies too. And I know the West Indies are a big, powerful hitting team. Is 2020 not our game? If we turn around and we beat England in the Ashes this year, I couldn't give a shit. I couldn't care what happens in the T20. But are we sending too many guys? Well, honestly, man, if we can win if we can win these test matches, I would rather that than us worry about a T20 tournament against Bangladesh. Are we sending too many guys to their IPLs and the big bash over here rather than trying to nurture our best 12? Or
are there too many formats?
Yes, exactly.
No. Yeah. I think that's an archaic way of thinking. No, get it modernized with what's happening in sport. Whether it's 2020 is not that new anymore. We should be good enough to compete and do more than compete. I can't say that we're focusing on something that's more or less important. This is a part of our game at the moment, and to accept losing in a sport that is just we've dominated. I think it's, if you told the US if we played a game of 4-minute quarters in American football and they got dominated, would they be like, well, we're not used to playing 4-minute quarters? No.
Well, probably, yes, they probably would.
Win at all costs. Yeah.
Maybe it's me. Don't accept losing in any sport, but cricket, where you've dominated forever.
Yeah. We have. I see what you're saying, mate. I see what you're saying. Look, just going back to what you're saying about the Rugby League World Cup too. From what I could gather, there was a meeting very early this morning in the wee hours over here, which happened over the UK, and a lot of teams were in favour of postponing it till this time next year. So I believe Fiji and a lot of the islands and most of the UK were happy to postpone it. The host nation, England, wanted it to go ahead because they know they're going to lose once Australia and New Zealand turn up next year.
Yeah.
So I think the incentives, from what I can read and what I've heard, a lot more incentives are going towards England next year. They're going to receive a lot more money and a lot more financial support from the World Rugby League to have it next year instead. It also means that they're going to get thrashed because Australia and New Zealand are going to come out and kick him in the bum. So, but I believe there was a lot of fight back from them to sort of get this to be moved, because they were dead set on having it this year because they know that's the only hope they've got. So,
but maybe Ness can touch on it here. That if you've got basically 18 months, however long, to prepare for something, just imagine what that can do for the event.
Oh yeah, I mean, it would have thrown the organisers into complete disarray, and you do have a typically long lead time for some of these tournaments, so that it's not a long time. You've obviously thrown a lot of resources and money into it, and everything's sort of set. So you feel for them, you look at the Olympics, it's sort of just got off the ground, but a year later. So yeah, you don't want that, but the COVID world means you have to be prepared for absolutely anything, and it's not even a day by day thing these days in our world. It's hour by hour.
Yeah.
So not
but
fun.
There's positive. Do you
result.
think there's positive things that can come out of that? If you're hosting it, you just get a little bit more time to prepare. You get a little bit more time to polish a few things, cross your T's, dot your I's.
Yeah, and I think too, like waiting for the world to maybe return to whatever the new normal will be. So, maybe we'll actually see a better result, more people able to travel, more people vaccinated. I think there's probably, there's some serious benefits to delaying it as well. And obviously including the two best countries in the world in it is going to make that competition better. So there's certainly positives,
Yeah. Nice. All right, guys, just before I touch on my good, bad and ugly, Australia is in the final, of course, at the moment with Belgium in the hockey for playing for gold, and it's just gone into a penalty shootout after finishing 1-1. And so Australia's just missed their first penalty. So I'll focus on my good, bad and the ugly, and we'll give you live updates as we come. Look, my good is Kate Campbell in the swimming. Kate finished third in the 100-meter freestyle, and Emma won that race. And the first thing she did was not to be upset. She embraced her teammate and she said, "I am proud of you." And the words, they were just raining in my head all week. And she's just such a nice person and such a motherly figure, I suppose, to everyone in the team. And it's so nice to see someone support everyone else around them at the Olympics, even though the Olympics is mainly a solo event. So I'm just so happy that she was there, and it brought almost a tear to my eye when I saw her. And I'm so happy for everyone else, even though she's worked as hard as them and still finished in third, but she was as happy for her teammates. So big ups to Kate Campbell. She is my good this week. The bad, now, I know the guy's name is Alex, but I'm not sure what his last name is. He had a crash in the cycling when his handlebars fell off. Now, this guy was traveling 65k an hour in the velodrome, and his handlebars fell off his bike. And the first thing that hit the ground was this bit right here. And he's broken his nose, and he smashed his face up, and he came out and supported his teammates as well. So the bad is the person who manufactured the bike that couldn't handle 65k an hour, right? That was bad. So I'm sure the person who manufactured that bike is getting a kick in the bum, but very sad to see him. But I believe his team finished third, if I'm not wrong, in the pursuit.
Maybe fifth.
Maybe fifth. Okay, cool. Fifth and well, so sort of fifth. My ugly this week is me. I went away. Not this face, not this face. You know, it's a beautiful face. My ugly is me. I went away this weekend, and I sat there. I was watching some of the sport over the weekend. I was watching some diving, and within 10 minutes, I was a diving expert. And I was like, I had a few beers, and this is for the armchair experts out there. And I was like, "What are you doing? You can't do that. You can't do this." And I became an expert on diving and was arguing with the people on TV and the judges and the fans. And I became an expert in like 8 minutes. And I was disappointed in myself the next day. There was no one around. No one saw it. So I'm throwing myself under the bus and saying more of us need to be not like me. Okay. Enjoy the sport that you're watching, and don't judge the people that have been doing this for like 30 years when I've known about the sport for like 3 minutes. The other day I was watching.
We're all guilty of it.
The other day I was watching the rock climbing. They race up the wall, and these girls are fast. And after like 2 minutes, I was like, "What are you doing? You suck. You're terrible." I'm like, what is wrong with me? What kind of person am I? I'm a terrible person.
And everyone on the couch. That's you and everyone on the couch, mate. So
my ugly is couch athletes, I suppose. So don't be a coach athlete. Get out there and actually do it. So
we are all so guilty of that, Spinks. Like that's all of us. We're professionals in every sport, and I've never heard of half of them. So
exactly right.
Don't beat yourself up, mate. After 8 minutes, I think I'm an expert in other things too.
All right. So as we sit now, the Olympic medal tally for the Aussies, we have 17 gold medals. We have 4 silver and 18 of the bronze medals, and we have a total of 39. Now, this is their highest ever gold tally, equaling from, I'm not sure what games it was, Ness, but can you fill me in on that one?
Athens 2004, if I've done my homework correctly.
Now, we've got the beach volleyball girls. They are coming up tomorrow afternoon, also against the USA. We've got the men's hockey on as we speak right now, not looking too good at the moment, but we've got the girls in the beach volleyball. There is a lot of medals to still be had. This could be our best ever games. Despite it being a year late, I think most of us have either worked a lot harder or turned up still for it. So we're certainly looking up this year. So it's very nice to see. Do you guys think the extra year has sort of helped us out, or it's hindered us, or it's kind of both?
I think from the athlete's perspective, I know a lot of them have said how difficult it was to continue that momentum and continue that fitness and that drive and keep the motivation. And I guess that uncertainty of, are we on, are we off, are we training, are we not training? They probably didn't have the level of practice that they could have had. You know, some of the team sports, being able to have practice matches against other countries that they might normally. So I know a lot of the friendlies were cancelled. I think that's probably played a part, certainly for our Opals and our Boomers and our Matildas, etc. So, and the Hockey Roos. So probably hindered in some ways, but and I was probably one of them that was probably not overly interested in the Olympics, and now I haven't been able to turn it off for 2 weeks, and I don't want it to end, and I'm pretty excited for what's to come with the Paras very soon.
Yeah, look, we've got a lot to come up still, especially this weekend. So coming up this weekend, Aussie saved it.
We just lost?
The Belgians sorry guys, we got distracted there. Belgium has just won gold in the men's hockey, and Australia has finished with the silver. We've lost the shootout 3-2, unfortunately, so unlucky for the Aussies there. Looks like he's going back. Anyway, let's talk about next week on the show. So next week on the show, I've got a very special guest I've been trying to line up for a few weeks, and I believe she has been part of the team over in Tokyo the last couple of weeks. So I won't talk too much about it. I'll wait until we see her on the show next week. More things to come over the weekend. Don't forget Australia against New Zealand in the rugby union on Saturday. I believe their game is at 5:30. For those of you who like your American football, there is no Aussies involved in this game, but I love it. The Hall of Fame game is on tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. between the Dallas Cowboys, that's my team, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So expect that game to be full of guys who won't make it into the starting team this year, but it's always a good test for those guys who are on the cusp. And Bo, of course, you'll be watching Australia and Bangladesh in the two more T20s over the weekend. So I'm sure you'll be involved in that heavily.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Don't forget the closing ceremony of the Olympics is at 9:00 on Saturday night. There'll be a lot to see there, and there'll be a 2-week gap, I believe, before the Paralympics start as well. So there's heaps of good sport on this weekend, unless you're a Vixens netball fan, and then you might as well just stay home and watch nothing. So.
Season done. Season 2021 is done. Yes. Yeah, but I just hope the Swifts lose. So,
look, guys, whatever it is that you're doing this weekend, stay safe out there. Look after your friends and family. I'm not telling you what to do. You don't have to. If you want to get the shot, get the shot. If you don't. I don't really care. Okay, but you need to look after those people around you. We're coming out of winter now. We're almost, it's going to get warmer soon, okay? So that means we can be all out partying, doing whatever you want all weekend. If you just stay home and be sensible and think about it, in like 6 months' time, you'd be like, who cares? Everyone's out having a good time. Stay safe out there and look after everyone around you. Hooroo. See you guys.
See you guys.
For Shane Warne. Die Stark